Nope.
AAT Birds Weekly Report is the Eagle news, notes, and analysis you need. It's all birds, all the time.
And welcome to the AAT Birds recap. It is myself, Johnny Ulecka, Chip, and Mike Bauer joining us. We are going to talk a little bit about this. Well, talk a lot about this game. What we liked, what we didn't like. There's a lot of storyline in this. Unfortunately, there's some injury. There's some concern. There's a lot in it. Unfortunately, I think some of it's a little overblown. I think people are overreacting, just like a lot of Philadelphia fans do, is overreact. Listen, I just want to get this off. I'm just going to start off with this. A lot of people want to say that Philadelphia fans are the smartest. I think there's a very high portion and high percentage of pretty stupid Eagles fans in terms of overreacting and thinking basically the world is over and the season's over because of one game. And it's pretty comical because a lot of people thought the season was over in 2017 when Wentz got hurt. Then they thought the season was over the Raiders game because they didn't play very well. Yeah. Then they thought in 2022 the season was over after you had the loss to Washington at home. It's always something. There's always something to complain about, and we're always going to have that. And how it's to me, it just baffles my mind because I think there's a lot of fans, fair weather fans, when you look at it, and a lot of fans look at me. I go to the games, and I'm a better fan than you because I go to the games and I know because I can watch them on the field and I watch the film and I do this, and it's just so much overreaction in one game. It is so comical, and that's why listening to the radio is not what you should do, and you should be putting on the Christmas stations and listening to Christmas music or holiday music or whatever music you like to listen to.
12-3. That was quite the segue at the end there, considering last week you bashed me for Christmas movies. So,
but Christmas music is great all year round. But okay,
12-3.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Johnny and I have already been debating in the side conversations. And you know what? We're going to get right into it right now because, Johnny, you've managed to rile me up again. Johnny is a Tanner McKee enthusiast, and I don't know why. I'm a Tanner McKee hater, and I'm okay with it. But let me say what I said to you in text, Johnny. The Philadelphia Eagles did not lose this game because of Kenny Pickett. Now, Kenny Pickett was not good. Don't get me wrong. But they did not lose because of Kenny Pickett. Here are the reasons why the Eagles lost. And put them in whatever order you want all the way before you get to Kenny Pickett. Number one, the offensive line had one of the worst games they've had in probably the last 5 years. Like back to the Jamone Brown days. There were literal guys unblocked. Mekhi Becton was awful last week. Issue number one, O-line not blocking. Issue number two, drop passes at key moments. And you know what? You can account that to coming from a different quarterback, I guess. But I'm not going to make excuses to billionaires who drop footballs. Okay.
There's a couple bad passes.
Issue number three. The defense was absolutely gassed by the end of the game. Why? Because the Eagles could not sustain a drive. Issue number four. Awful, biased, investigatory worthy officiating. And we're going to talk about that quite a lot this night. I also put CJ Gardner-Johnson being selfish and stupid as a reason. Then maybe you can put Kenny Pickett's play as a reason why the Eagles lost. But all those other things are significantly more important to what happened yesterday in Landover.
People really want to eviscerate Saquon for the drop, but let's not forget, I believe it was on that same drive or the drive before. A.J. Brown had a drop as well that he routinely makes.
Yep.
As far as Kenny Pickett goes, Kenny Pickett did get hurt in the game. I believe it's a rib or arm injury. Let's not forget, when he came into the game, he was firing him in there pretty good to start the game until he got hurt. I thought he looked okay. The problem was with him being hurt, the Commanders were really able to focus on the running game, and they're like, we're going to make you throw the ball. And with a hurt backup quarterback, they weren't able to do it. I thought Pickett did some good things. I thought Kenny Pickett also showed why the Steelers were able to trade him away. He's going to likely continue his career being a high-end backup. That is what he is at this point in his career. And, the thing is, it wasn't – I will say this. This team, throughout their 10-game winning streak, longest in Eagles history, they won as a team. Against the Commanders in Landover, they lost as a team. And I actually wasn't even mad when this game was over. I'm like, hey, didn't think we were going to win them all. Let's get any losses out of the way now. Save all the winning for the playoffs if we have to. Saquon looked really good in the first half. Like I said, they just focused on him. The Devonta drop that would have sealed the game was bad. But I did see one really good thing. Jake Elliott did miss a 56-yarder, just fell short. I guess it was windy down there, but he did make a 50-yarder. So,
correct. So now that narrative can stop. Yep.
Yes. And Johnny, you said something that I really agree with about the Eagles fans. They could be ignorant and stifling at times, but a lot of things too, they just get really overblown. And you're right. The millionaires, they need to do their job. But at the end of the day, there was a lot of narratives surrounding this game. You got to give credit to the Commanders for overcoming 5 turnovers. Jaden Daniels is going to be a problem for the NFC East for a long time to come. And I'm excited about the Eagles playing him twice a year, to be honest with you.
I think a
good game.
He's been a very good story. You're seeing him be a very talented player. But I think a lot of people, and what a lot of people have to do is everyone wants to crown rookies and young players right away.
Correct.
It's like
always.
CJ Stroud and Jordan Love have struggled after teams have gotten film on him. So it's like you have to kind of, temper expectations. He's brought this team back from the so-called dead, in terms of, you want to say that. So that's good. That's good for the franchise, good for them, whatever it may be. But, I want to talk a little bit about, so Jalen Hurts on the 11th play, dives forward. Frankie Louvu comes down, hits him in the head. And it's funny because
no flag.
Let's start with the officiating.
Nope, no flag on that one. Come on.
I can't wait to see how much he gets fined.
But no, I just looking at seeing that. Okay, if they didn't pick it up, okay, all right, it was bang bang. All right, if you want to give that one, fine. Okay, maybe Jalen should have slid instead of going forward. Okay, yeah. But it is funny when you look at the Thursday night game when they played them on Thursday night. They had those 2 hits, one where they actually full force landed on Jalen on the back of his head, landed on him. It's like they're going for it and they're gunning for it. And I get that. It is what it is with that. But Eagles were dicing them up in the run game. Absolutely dicing them up. And because they can't stop the run. And that's their biggest fault on defense. They can't stop the run. But when Kenny Pickett comes in the game, and my biggest thing, Pickett is nowhere close to Jalen. And I like McKee better than Pickett. I get that. But if they were to put Pickett in a little bit better of a situation, putting him under center, doing a little play action that way, doing some different stuff, because using him in the shotgun like you use Hurts, he is no threat to run, to pull it and run like Jalen is. He's not going to do that, and he wasn't doing that. So what they did was stack the box with 8-9 defenders at times, to sell out the edges crashing down when they know it's going to be a run, to be able, and the offensive line can't block that. And I don't think the offensive line had a terrible day, but when it's an all-out blitz, Kenny has to kind of know about that. And it just, listen, it's what happens when you're a back quarterback. You don't get the reps. It is what it is. But, to me, what's funny is Kenny has late in the game, Pickett slides and he get hit. And they didn't really graze his helmet, but they hit him when he was sliding and they throw the flag. But then all of a sudden they get together and they pick up the flag. But when Milton Williams pushes Jaden Daniels, and it's really not an obligatory, not a late hit, not a hit to the head, nothing. That doesn't get picked up. CJ Gardner-Johnson says something. The guy hits him in the helmet, punches his helmet off. He gets the penalty. He gets another penalty. We don't know what happened. We don't know what was said.
Yeah, I would love to see, because nobody...
What was ejection worthy? Yeah.
Yeah, and even the guys in the booth that were calling the game
were all chirping. It's that's what it's what rival football is. You chirp at each other.
It's a division game. You get
and
that.
I think so for me, yeah, the first
the penalties. Listen, the penalties didn't. It's not the refs that cost them the game. I'm not saying that. I'm saying
it was the undisciplined play.
Yeah, the Eagles should have been more
But
disciplined.
where I got frustrated, and why that's one of my reasons, is both sides were playing aggressive, both sides were playing physical, and the officiating was only punishing one side. And listen, as a baseball umpire and now a basketball official, I am not one to poo-poo the refs very often. So I'm not one to say, "Oh, it's the referee's fault." This was bad. So the C.J. Gardner-Johnson thing. Yes, obviously he said something that led to him getting punched in the mouth. At the very minimum, it should have been offsetting penalties, right?
Yep.
2 unsportsmanlike, 1 for each team, unnecessary roughness, fine. Okay, it didn't go that way. So right off the bat, we know that there's some garbage happening. CJ Gardner-Johnson, and I am a huge CJ GJ fan, has absolutely 1 billion% has to be smarter in that situation. When you have that penalty looming over you, you shut up and you let your play do the talking.
I think something else.
I look at the last touchdown, right? That is a situation where, yes, Zach Bond got very badly beat. We saw it on the tape over and over again. But that is a spot where your safety should have been there. And for him not to be there, it was very evident why that was as wide open as it was.
Chip, I'll give you another play. And it was the 4th and 11 play where Daniels goes up the middle. It's Tristan McCullum who comes down.
This is one, yep.
He had it.
Play Sidney Brown, please.
Exactly. McCullum isn't very. He is what he is. He's a special teams guy. Unfortunately,
exactly. And I like the kid. He plays hard, but Nate Gary played hard and he was awful.
Sidney Brown needs to be the one playing more and more. And
but I consider CJ getting ejected again after the first one. Okay, we saw what kind of game it was going to be. You have to know that as a multi-million-dollar player, you have to see the writing on the wall and be smarter. And he just wasn't. For him to get ejected. And by the way, we're not even necessarily done with whatever punishment he's going to get because of the flipping off the crowd as he exits the game.
I love CJ Gardner-Johnson.
Yeah. I love the guy, but you got to be smarter.
Yeah. No, he did say too, I believe it had the effect of, after seeing Hurts get taken a hit to the head, it kind of, that really, I guess, pumped up his juices and got him fired up.
To the point of if you allow a game to get too physical as an official, then all that's going to happen is it's going to continue to get more and more physical and to a point where it's not safe, right? When they let Jalen attacker get off scotch-free, it became very scot-free, whatever the term is.
I think it's scot-free.
I think it's scot-free. When you let that happen, you set the tone for an entire game. And then to only over-officiate one side, it's why, to me, Kenny Pickett was less of a problem than the officiating was in Sunday's loss.
I'm not saying Kenny Pickett was the problem because he throws that ball to Devontae, they catch it, they win.
Right, and no one's talking like this.
But you also have to, I understand that the defense was at fault because you can't give up the 4th and 11. You can't have them come back. I get that. I understand that. But the defense also, after Hurts left the game, after it was Kenny Pickett starting drives, the defense got 4 turnovers and you got 6 points.
Correct. And that's what I said. I'm not blaming the defense. I'm blaming the exhaustion of the defense. The defense being gassed because the offense couldn't sustain drives.
The defense had the problem was there's certain points where the defense got a little over aggressive, didn't stay in their lanes, tried to get, when you have a quarterback like Jaden Daniels, he's going to elude the pocket. He's going to get out, and you have to be able to stay in your lanes and be able, like on that 4th and 11, to me, a play you had Jalex Hunt, you had Carter, Milton Williams, and you had, I believe it was Nolan Smith.
Uh-huh.
What I would have loved to see was Hunt, let Carter go on the outside and Hunt loop around the inside, because then you contain Jaden Daniels and not let him get out there. But again, you should have tackled him before the 11 yards. But unfortunately, you didn't. He had He had 5 touchdown passes. I get that. Also had 2 interceptions. And listen, it's he's a very mature quarterback. He was 5 years in college. He's a 24-year-old. Like, he's not a 21-year-old, kid. He's a mature.
He made rookie mistakes, and the Eagles did a good job capitalizing on them.
Well, they didn't capitalize enough.
And this is what I was going to say, when your leader like Jalen Hurts goes down,
shows you how much he is in terms of impactful of this team.
Yep. I was going to get to
4th and 1 play, they punted it instead of a tush push.
A tush push, yep.
Kenny Pickett probably can't do it as well.
I think that he could, but at the same time, it was just the smarter play, because you couldn't lose yet another quarterback on a play that is high volume of pain, like it is. But what I was going to say is, when Jalen Hurts went down, everybody what's worked really well in the 10-game winning streak was everybody kind of knew their role, knew their job, and did their role, did their job. And there were moments where people stepped up and did things. When Jalen Hurts went down, it changed to I have to step up mentality. And because of that, mistakes were made that have not been made in the last couple of months.
Let me ask you this. How much do you miss Dallas Goedert as a blocker? Because Grant Calcaterra was absolutely
had a bad game.
Hold on. Why are they leaving him one-on-one on edge rushers? That's
because Mekhi Becton had a bad game and miscommunicated with Lane Johnson, and they both pulled down the line, and nobody touched the edge rusher. It was miscommunication. Yeah. I'm sorry. I like Mekhi Becton. I think he's really reinvigorated his career. But when Jalen went down, he became exposed as one of the reasons why he didn't work out in New York. Mekhi Becton had a bad football game.
That's a little bit over. Listen, when they know you're running,
I'm not saying cut the guy, I'm not saying bench the guy, but he had a bad football game, and the tape is there to prove it.
But when they're playing 5-man fronts and they're playing 2 linebackers and then another guy down in the box, they're outnumbering you. That, you're getting outnumbered by bigger bodies because you have Grant Calcaterra, CJ Uzomah, EJ Jenkins. These are all smaller tight ends that really – Uzoma's a decent blocking tight end.
Uzomah had the block that sprung Saquon. Yeah.
But listen,
wait, let me ask you this.
Where's Jackson?
Miami.
I'm trying to remember. With Kelsey retiring, they made a big deal about how now Jalen is calling the protections. Correct?
Yeah.
When Jalen goes down, has Cam Jurgens been taking over calling the protections? And is that yet another reason why the Eagles lost? Because their quarterback wasn't calling the protections out. Tyrone, what we're talking about here, I think that all of us kind of agree that Pickett, he didn't cost us the game. There's about 9 reasons before that, but he certainly didn't help them win the game.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things too. You have a former defensive coordinator as a head coach. Defensively, the Commanders adjusted really well at halftime.
Yeah, they did.
And I just look, we got beat. It's that easy. I still think, going to win the division. Obviously, I don't think the Commanders are going to do it, and the Giants and Cowboys do not appear to be a threat anymore this season.
All the Eagles have to do is win this week. So
yeah. And hey, I think they're going to Tanner McKee, Kenny Pickett, regardless. It's in Philly, so I'm pretty confident. It's now a 1:00 game, my favorite. Yeah,
and it's good. Also, it's going to be interesting too when you look at Dallas. Is CeeDee Lamb going to be healthy enough to play? Because he was really hurting with that AC joint injury. Don't know how bad it is. You don't want to keep having him play on that when
the Cowboys over. Shut him down.
So
start to shut people down.
I'm just saying, and Cooper Rush has played better for Dallas, but he's not a threat mobility-wise as a Jaden Daniels. So, when you look at the Eagles' defense in terms of being able to hone in and pass rush and be able to close in on the pocket on Cooper Rush and stop their run game, which is key, we'll see.
What run game? Rico Dowdle?
I will say this, though, Chip. You're talking about – it was either you or Johnny, sorry, talking about having Pickett in the shotgun. I do think if Kellen Moore knows that Jalen Hurts is not going to play, he will at least have a week to tailor the offense to Kenny Pickett, to do more of those things under center,
It'll
more play action. So that would be beneficial. He'll get all the first team reps in practice. Tanner McKee will get
Right.
more reps. So it's one of those things where it's hard to come in when you have a game plan already set for a different style of quarterback. And this is why they had a guy like Marcus Mariota, a few years ago, last year,
Similar. Yep.
similar. This is why, as much as I like Tanner McKee, I think he was a great draft pick. I wanted them to draft a guy like Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and you could say, "Oh, he sucks," but he's also on the Browns. The Browns are just a complete crap show. So, it's just one of those things where, when they're looking for a backup, you really need to start thinking about what your starting quarterback looks like and
Correct.
mold your backup to that.
And the way that I look at it, like you look at some guys like a Tyrod Taylor, a Josh Dobbs, something along the lines of that can give you a little bit of what Jalen does in terms of that, Tyler Huntley. Like, I know they're not great names, but something close enough. But, it's going to be interesting to see when the injury report comes out or the practice report comes out, and is Jalen able to practice, because he's got to go through the protocol. So we don't know. And then who's taking the reps, because, Kenny had a rib, whatever it was, hampered him. He was really in pain when he was really pressing on, looks like the rib area.
To the point that you had McKee warming up.
Yeah. Does McKee take the snaps? Because he's the only other quarterback you'd have left. So, do they bring in another quarterback on the practice squad as a just in case, though both those guys can't play? So it's an interesting aspect when you look at it. My thing is this, it's like, yes, this game sucked because you wanted to get the win, get the 2 seed, get the division, have that wrapped up. A chance at the 1 seed. I get that. But like, for me, it's just, now you have to win this week, and hopefully you get a week 18 essential bye to sit all your starters, have the backups play against the Giants with the division locked up and most likely a 2 seed, because the 1 seed will most likely be, Detroit or Minnesota, depending on what they do in their games.
Yeah, we were kind of talking before and saying, well, we want to see Saquon break the record, and it'd be great if he's able to do that against the Giants.
I would just like to see him get 2,000 at least.
Me too. But depending on the injury situation, we're right back in the conversation of how much do we want to rely on Saquon Barkley, because we have a hopeful long playoff run about to start.
You got to stay healthy.
Yeah.
Health is a huge factor in terms of that.
For sure.
So, and they had a couple guys that went down. Jordan Davis, luckily came back in the game, which was good to see. Josh Sweat left, but then he came back. It's going to be interesting. And listen, I know last week we didn't talk about it, but they opened up the 21-day window for Bryce Huff. Most likely probably get activated this week, I would think.
He'll play this week.
Have him on pass rush downs would be nice. Let him do what he did in New York last year. Let him rush the passer let him put a hand in the ground and let him rush the passer, what he does best, and let him see get some pressure on the quarterbacks. Because Nolan Smith has taken a big leap forward. I've been very impressed with him.
He's been great the last couple of weeks.
He really has.
They've had some guys look really well, these young defenders, which is awesome to see. Quignon had a tough game in terms of letting McLaurin run by him, unfortunately. That was his only miscue of the game, but it was a tough one.
It was a big one.
The whole 12 men on the field with Slay going for Ringo staying out, not knowing what he's doing, and then, the touchdown. So again, that was another unfortunate miscue.
It was the first time in a couple of months that this Eagles team has not looked like a complete group. The mistakes that were made remind me of when we were on our, 10-1, then the losing streak where we weren't playing discipline, the first 4 weeks of the season where they weren't really playing discipline. I'm not jumping all the way and saying that, it's going to happen again, because I am not a alarmist.
You have a defensive coordinator that is going to get things fixed and make sure these guys.
He's going to fix things this week.
Oh yeah.
So, he's a guy I have a lot of faith in to be able to, get these guys' minds right, get them straight, and to know that this isn't how you play defense. This isn't the way the defense needs to be played or has to be played. This is not
exactly right.
Eagles defense.
It's also nice to see the Eagles defense having more swagger than it has in the past few years.
Yeah.
But you have to use control.
I know, I agree with that, but still, we saw, especially last year after the 10-1 start, there was a team that looked lost. This was a team that when Jonathan Gannon was the defensive coordinator, they were very good at getting pressure, but not as good on the back end as they are now. And it was just they didn't just have the bravado that they do now. And I love having Vic Fangio here, but I do think it was really important to have a seasoned defensive coordinator come in, because I think guys like Jonathan Gannon, Desai, Matt Patricia, they were just yes man. They did what Sirianni and what Jeff Lurie wanted them to do. And with Vic Fangio, I feel like he came in and said, "You want me? I'm doing this. I'm starting who I want. I'm playing who I want. Or
Get me these type of players. Get me this."
And Cooper DeJean in there has been great. Quinyon Mitchell has been significantly better than I ever expected him to be as a rookie. And this defense as a whole, look, they had a bad game this past week. Johnny, you mentioned they were gassed. This isn't going to be every week. Not even close.
And again, a lot of it was them trying to overcompensate for the loss of Jalen Hurts, which I appreciate because, it's the next man up mentality. It's all that. I appreciate the effort. It just was not executed well against a team that, I'm not going to lie, was probably pretty pissed off that they lost the way they did last time out against the Eagles. So they came out, and in front of a home crowd, they never gave up. Again, like we keep mentioning, 5 turnovers is usually enough to secure a victory. That is a team that never stopped fighting. So kudos to the Commanders. But like I said, and I won't even listen to sports talk radio this week.
No.
It has very minimal to do with Kenny Pickett and so much more to do with all the other intangibles that I don't want to listen to the let's run Kenny Pickett out of town talk.
The nice thing is, with this week being Christmas and everything, you got a game on Wednesday, 2 games on Wednesday, game on Thursday. I think there's 3 games on Saturday, and then you have Sunday and whatever. So,
and I'll tell you what's really nice too. We do not play in any of those games.
Yes.
I hate holiday games when my team is playing them.
It ruins the holiday for us.
It does.
Yeah, I didn't like when they played, was it 2 years ago on Christmas Eve?
I think they played the Giants last year on Christmas. It was the win that felt like a loss, if you remember.
Yeah. Yep. And then the year before that, they played on Christmas Eve when Minshew lost to the Cowboys.
Yes.
So
when Quez Watkins had that ball deflect
off.
Why
do we have to use these names? So we don't have to use Gardner Minshew. We don't have to use. I mean, just break out a J.J. Whiteside and fully insert. I snuck in Jamone Brown. So
yeah, I was going to say you started.
I know. I did. My fault.
I did say Nate Gary earlier too. So
Yeah, what is up with us tonight, gentlemen?
I know. I was watching Tristan McCollum. At first I thought it was Macho Harris, but
no, it was Jaquan Jarrett.
Oh God. Okay, so before we head off, I want to bring up 2 things here. One is AJ Brown. 1,000 yards again, 3rd straight season with 1,000 yards. Him and Mike Quick are the only 2 Eagles receivers to do that. So in great company. Unfortunately, Mike Quick's career ended too short, or else he, to my opinion, would have been an NFL Hall of Famer with the way his career was going. Was really, really, really talented. And then the other thing was one, I think, little point in the game that I think gets a little overlooked because of the Devontae drop and because the defense wasn't able to hold at the end of the game, the Reed Blankenship interception, him just literally kind of like walking and then just like going down instead of running full speed, trying to get as many yards as possible to get as close as possible. I thought that was something that was a little overlooked because when he was running, I'm like, why is he trying to go down? The game's not over. They have timeouts, 2-minute warning still there, and you're only up by a couple points. Try to get as close as possible.
Yep.
And he went down.
The offense was playing, get a touchdown.
27. What?
With the way the offense is playing, just get a touchdown.
Yeah, run and try to get I know you don't want to try to fumble and give him the ball back. I get that, but try to get as many yards as possible that you can. I just thought that was something that's an overlooked aspect of the game, especially towards the end of the game.
One other thing too, Braden Mann's kickoffs need to be better, or Jake.
Oh
is it-
my God! There you go. That's a big issue.
Yeah,
Put
the first
Jake
kickoff that he
Elliott at the kickoffs. Like, why is he not kicking it off?
I think it's because of these new rules, but I don't understand because Jake Elliott, you know, I want Jake Elliott doing kickoffs. I want him being warmed up throughout the game. You know what I mean? I personally, they say that's not the reason why he was missing all these field goals. I feel like a kicker doing kickoffs helps keep him in rhythm,
Yeah.
my opinion. But, you know,
The
Braden Mann
starting position for the Commanders was crazy because they kept getting the
They
ball
were
at
around with the
35,
40,
36,
45.
37, 40.
Every single drive.
and that's gonna hurt your defense too, because now they can't play the way that they want to. They can't be as aggressive because you're already at midfield.
Now, they did give up a big 97-yard drive. So there were those two long pass plays, the McLaurin 32-yarder, and then there was a long one to Diami Brown. So unfortunately, those two things can't happen either. But again, it was one time they had the ball that deep. Otherwise, they were at least, 10 to 15 yards from the 50-yard line.
Yeah.
And, when you have that, you get them the opportunity to move the ball, and you're always in that territory, of the defense having to kind of like, it wasn't great. Now, of course, they got some turnovers, which were great in what they did. But like I said, you didn't get enough points off of turnovers. And unfortunately, that at the end of the line, you let Washington stay in the game long enough to be able to bite you, because that game was taking forever.
Yeah.
So, and that'll happen with all the penalties and some of the scoring and what was going on, injuries and all that. So, they move. Eagles are on to the Dallas Cowboys. It is Kelly Green week. So that is also cool. It's going to be interesting to see Kelly Green in the daytime instead of at night, like they've worn the last couple of times. So it'll be interesting, but it'll be fun time. And little mind you fact now, I will post this tomorrow, but the last home game the Eagles played against the Dallas Cowboys wearing Kelly Green was in 1995. Do you know the significance of that game?
Did they clinch a playoff spot? Or was that when they stopped Emmitt Smith?
4th and 1 twice.
Yeah. Okay. They stopped him again.
Yeah. I'm not going to tell you about the last time they played the Cowboys in Kelly Green, because that was the divisional playoff game, and that was a not so good game. And
John,
the last game, Randall Cunningham played as a Philadelphia Eagle. So,
are you doing any more pods this week, or are we not doing any because of the? I'm assuming
we're going to do one on Thursday night. Going to do the breakdown show, the preview show. So
the inside swoop.
So that'll be on Thursday night. If you'd care to join, you are more than welcome. But
I will be in Lehighton on Thursday night.
Well, looks like it'll be Chip and I.
Sorry.
Yeah. I don't know how to
losing all that family time around the holidays. You know how it goes.
Huh? You got to do what you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, unfortunately, the Eagles lose in Landover, and they're 12-3, but they move on, and let's get the W, win the division, lock up that 2 seed, and look forward to the playoffs. So with that, as we always say, go Birds.
Birds.
This is Matt Ware. Hey, for all the Eagle content you need, go follow All About the Birds. They do a damn thing. Check them out.
Hey, Eagles fans, I may be in Tampa, but I know where to find the best Eagles content out there. Check out my friends at All About the Birds.
Philadelphia, what's up? This your boy Freddie Mitchell, a.k.a. Fred X. It's all about the bird.
All birds all the time. All birds all the time.
All About the Birds provides you with weekly analysis, game recaps, informative interviews, and it's all birds all the time.